and we've got our movie critic with us this afternoon. It is Friday here on Good Things. So, Miss Tanya, welcome back.
Thank you.
And I feel like since you've come into our lives, I've been watching so much more good cinema, and it's all through streaming. But I did share with you that I redid an assignment, which I don't do often, but it was to show my family Black Widow.
Yeah.
And so we did that around my birthday this past week, and my daughter and all sort of loved it, and I enjoyed it the second time. So again, if you hadn't seen that one, I feel like it's worth getting out, or you may not be able to get out and see it now, but at least stream it and watch it.
Yeah, it's a good girl power movie.
It is a good girl power movie. Did you get to go see the good girl power, I guess you could say, in Diana and Spencer movie? I know we were waiting for that one.
Yeah, I did, and I'm so sad to report that I was disappointed. I mean, I guess in my mind, I thought it was going to be kind of like The Crown, where there's some nuggets of truth in there, and some fabrications, but this was total fabrication.
You could tell it.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of crazy. I did enjoy the scenery. I mean, the big castles and the big just green for days, and all the royal fancy dinners and all that. I loved seeing all of that, but it was totally, in fact, at the very beginning, it discloses this is a fable. And so...
But do you think that the average person has the ability to separate the two?
I think so, just because there were some crazy things that happened in this. One scene, and this isn't a spoiler, she's kind of, I guess, imagining, and she's so trapped in her body. She's with the royals for a weekend around Christmas. In fact, it is Christmas weekend. And she's like so uncomfortable. Charles has given her a set of pearls that she knows. He also gave an identical pair to Camilla. And she just rips them off of her neck. They fall into her soup, and she eats them. Which the pearls were like giant gumball. So obviously nothing a human could ever do. But, there were some, other than it being Diana, the characters, I really don't think there was a whole lot of truth to it,
Well, I guess that's almost a good thing, too, although it does ruin it a little bit for fans who really love her, because you hope that people either can decipher between the two, or there's not that line, because I feel like with The Crown, the royal family really felt like, well, half may be true, but the other half's not, and you didn't know which half to believe.
Right, yeah, and with The Crown, after every episode, I find myself Googling, okay, did this really happen? Did this happen?
Yeah.
And so I've learned a lot of history. That's what it kind of like Downton Abbey, too. Yeah. It's got a lot of history, threaded in the plot. And so I find myself, studying to see, did this really happen, if I couldn't remember? And most times I can't, because I was not a great history student. But it definitely gets you out of reality for a couple of hours. Beautiful to look at, but it just wasn't what I was expecting.
That's fair. You're the critic. You get to have that opinion.
Yeah, and then there's a new movie this weekend, Clifford the Big Red Dog. My kids are a little too old for that, so I kind of forced my younger one, who is 13, to watch it with me, and he did, and his opinion was, this is bad.
Oh,
he kept saying, this is bad.
Is it sad?
Well, there are some very heartwarming moments and some sad moments, but I'm going to be honest, the trailer, all of the good, juicy,
in the trailer,
tearjerker parts are in the trailer. And the trailer is what made me want to see it. Mm-hmm. I mean, normally I would not see something like that. The CGI was a little iffy. It reminded me of some of the early Harry Potter stuff where, Harry and Hermione and Ron are fighting the troll in the bathroom. It's clearly fake people. And that's kind of what some of the CGI looked like in this. But as far as, the plot was really sketchy. The character development was not great. But, your kids will love it. I mean, who doesn't love a big red dog? And
in the books, because I know this is off of Clifford, is in a series of books. Maybe is he always so big?
He is. And I did read books with my kids when they were little, and it was always just Clifford in a situation where the books we read.
Right.
But in this one, it's a little girl who's kind of new and is in her community and is feeling really lonely. The girls at school are kind of being mean to her, and she's on her way to school one day with her uncle, and they happen upon this tent, and it was a rescue animals, and she finds Clifford, and her uncle's like, no, you cannot have him. Your mother would kill me. The mother's out of town on a business trip. And so they leave. She goes on to school. She gets home that afternoon, and Clifford's in her backpack. And the whole premise is she asks the guy that John Cleese plays, a kind of a magical animal rescuer that has Clifford. And she asks, how big will he get? And he says, well, it just depends on how much you love him.
Oh,
and
well,
so
that's sweet.
The next day...
I'm glad my dog don't grow like that.
Yeah.
Bailey would be huge.
So the next day she wakes up, and of course Clifford is huge. But anyway, you got your bad guys, and there's a lot of great actors in it. A lot of people from Saturday Night Live are in it, which is kind of fun to see, very small roles where they probably were able to show up for a day and get a pretty decent paycheck. But, like I said, so many kids' movies now entertain all of us, and so it doesn't feel like a chore to go see them. But this one, you would definitely be doing it for your children.
Well, now I'm hearing your age 13 or is definitely too old, so push it on down for the little ones, or wait and sort of see it, I guess, if it streams.
Yeah, and there's a lot of little silly moments, that the little ones are going to love.
So is that the only two?
There's actually a couple more new ones this weekend, but unfortunately they're not in our market. But if you're listening, close to the coast in New Orleans or maybe Memphis, maybe you can see them. But one of them is called Belfast, and I'm super excited to see it whenever it gets here. But it's kind of the story of a coming-of-age story about a little boy whose life is kind of all perfect, and then all of a sudden, the civil unrest starts in like 1969, and his world kind of is turned upside down. So it's kind of a heartwarming family film. And Judi Dench is in it, which to me, that's all I need to know to go see a movie, because I just love her. She just brings so much to every movie she's in. And then the other one is called Tick, Tick, Boom. And it's the true story of Jonathan Larson, who is the guy that wrote the very popular Broadway musical Rent. And kind of, his process of doing that and the pressures that he felt doing that. Unfortunately, he passed away before it even hit Broadway, like during the previews. So he never got to see what a big success it was. But anyway, that one is actually going to be in theaters for a week, and then it'll start on Netflix next weekend.
So lots to think about, or at least wait for.
Yeah.
What's the big one that's coming?
Next weekend we've got Ghostbusters Afterlife, so that'll be a big one to kind of pushing us into Thanksgiving.
It is good. I hope it's good and cheesy in the right sort of ways.
Yeah, I feel like it will be. Paul Rudd is in it, and he's another one of those guys you can kind of count on. He's always in good stuff.
Isn't that Ant-Man?
Yes. And he's also people's sexiest man alive.
Which is funny.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
Hey,
when I saw that, I was like, interesting.
I've seen the trailers for Ghostbusters, and I'm thinking, okay, I think that's going to be has potential to be a fun one, because he'll make it funny or fun.
He's such a funny guy. So, I've never been disappointed in his choice of humor. So I think it'll be fun.
It's like they were with Ryan Reynolds in The Rock, which I hadn't seen, but remind us of the name of it.
Red Notice. And that one is still, it's on Netflix, but it's also in theaters. So you've got two ways to watch that one. And then also next weekend, King Richard is a big one about I almost said the Serena sisters, the Williams sisters, Serena and Venus, and more focused on their dad and what he did to make them the great athletes they are today.
I hope that's a good one, and I hope it's kind of as accurate as it can
Yeah.
be in its portrayal. I will say we went to watch the one off of Sopranos, but not Sopranos, the beforehand whatever movie, and it is off of HBO Max.
Oh, is it?
So it rolled off. I don't know if it's rolled off for a little while and then it will sort of come back, but it was like no one told me that I needed to be on it. I thought once it was streaming, and so we kind of were sad about that, but we missed our boat.
Yeah, surely they'll bring it back, though.
I think they'll have to. I think it did so well. Maybe they're just trying to make you come back for it or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Well, you'll come back next week and you'll have new recommendations for us. But, Tanya, we always appreciate your time here on Good Things.
Thank you.
All righty, stick with us. We got more for you up next.